Twitter. All right. Last time on A Crown of Cold Iron, our party has found itself in the city of Weir, a point along a phantasmal river that runs through Fairy itself, the heart of the territory of the Fey Dragon Lord Lambton, the patron of Auric and his whole Silver Dragonborn clan. You all have entered Fairy, seeking out two different issues. First, humans that had gone missing, apparently trafficked into Fairy by Auric's own cousins, Argent and Stultus. Last session, you found them. You found the trafficked humans, but questions have been raised. They don't seem to have come involuntarily, and also, these very ill humans in various states seem to have been healed by receiving some kind of fey magic transfusion, you might call it, which has made them some kind of strange human fey amalgam. The conversation did not end in violence, but instead with Stultus offering to let you bring some of them back with you, the ones who are fully healed and ready to return home. For some particular reason, this has infuriated Marta, but you have seemingly resolved the issue. Meanwhile, Cyrus's missing mentor, Mort, seems to be somewhere upriver. Through some kind of mystical connection, Cyrus was able to catch a glimpse of the green and purple and blue lights of the Weir River shining above Mort as he looked up through some kind of cell or grate, accompanied by perhaps the sounds of water. Tracking this sort of mystical sense, Cyrus has been leading you all northward, which is where you hear that Lord Lambton himself is currently on the Weir River. Marta has secured a boat for you, and so the three of you, Marta and Vela, are on the Silver Horn heading up the river. So, our scene begins. We find you all not bobbing along, but floating serenely on the Silver Horn. The captain, a sort of graceful, sprightly-looking minotaur, strides around the boat, offering orders with a firm while his tiny nautical goblins... you all have been seated at what seems to be it looks like a very nice patio or veranda off of a fine restaurant. There are elegant tables and sort of beautiful but comfortable chairs situated to look out over the water. There are a handful of the little goblins who are not wearing sort of a sailing gear. Everyone else sort of looking like well, essentially like a pirate, a very nicely dressed pirate. These are wearing little red vests, and they have been bringing you all whatever food or drinks you would like from the menu. How have you all been sort of comporting yourselves as you move up the river?
So I think Lexi's probably well, I don't know that we're necessarily inside, but if there was a glass pane, Lexi would have her face smushed up against it. Yeah, the kid peeking in the shop window. She's absorbing all the sights that she sees right now because this is just nothing she could have ever pictured.
Just for fun, give me a perception check.
Okay. 15.
All right, with a 15, you see all manner of strange sights. You see a creature that you saw before somewhere back in Fairy. It is a tall, graceful stag or elk of some kind, but its antlers are seemingly made of like warped and interconnected hands. And the hands are lit with fairy fire. And it turns to regard you, but the face is just a human face. And it stares at you sort of serenely.
I just nod politely.
It nods back, and the hands kind of like give a little wave.
It's just like, hi.
I'll also say with a 15, you become aware, not necessarily of something specific, but you can just tell that you're almost definitely being observed. Like, you don't know if
By
it's
like the critters on the boat or like the critters outside.
definitely outside.
Okay.
There are outside unseen forces that are observing you.
Okay. Okay.
This is just like it's like a prickling on the back of your neck. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what it is. The hero light.
I glow.
Well, there's almost sort of like a warming along like the back of your head and neck, and
Okay.
you all can see there's little flickers of fairy fire that are just sort of running from like the base of her head down to like the back of her shoulders. Your spidey sense is
I was about to say, is
tingling.
my spidey sense tingling?
It is not like full blown alarm, but definitely you know this is not an unobserved moment.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What is Auric doing?
Trying not to hyperventilate.
Since say Auric might be getting in trouble pretty soon. Is that my
Oric
understanding?
is sitting in a corner with the first drink that he thought the name of because he couldn't be bothered to think much harder than that.
I think Vela is probably sitting with you and is sort of rubbing your back in like a calming motion, and she's got just a little touch of not quite fire, but more than human warmth, just sort of running down your back, trying to like help you catch your breath. What is Cyrus doing?
I think Cyrus is pacing
I was
and
about
is
to say that
trying
Cyrus
to
is pacing.
is like muttering to himself as he's like still trying to figure out like Lambton's end game. So he's like muttering about like power and expenditures and changelings and he's just kind of like pacing back and forth. Like, what does he get from this?
It's like the air guitar version of a conspiracy board.
Yeah.
Like,
Like he probably stops every once in a while and like pulls out a notebook and like scribbles something in it and then flips it closed and shoves it back in a pocket.
Marta is kind of doing about as well as you are. Um, she is very frustrated and is still sort of gently seething and is sitting at the very like uh, the prow of the boat. It's just sort of has a seat up in it. Like it's not a place where people are supposed to sit, but she's just like hunched in there, just looking super intently for the first sign of something coming along the water. The captain is giving orders. You're moving along. You occasionally see other boats sort of drifting almost in and out of existence. This whole river, it's very substantial. I mean, this is not a river you'd want to swim across.
Right.
But even then, you occasionally see boats like seem to like come out of a curtain of mist and join you briefly amongst the purples and blues and greens floating above the water. And then just as mysteriously they vanish. Occasionally, you catch glimpses of things moving along out in the woods. You're reminded that you were told that the space between the cities is a little more ambiguous and maybe dangerous than the more developed areas, or dangerous in a different way. So you all make your way along, and nothing happens. Which might in fact be the worst thing of all. All of the tension, all of the waiting, there's no secret ambush. Monsters don't jump up out of the river. The Minotaur captain and his goblin crew do an excellent job of steering you along. It is a very calm and pleasant boat ride. And Cyrus, you don't even have to roll for it. That connection that you feel with Mort is like pinging, and it's a powerful sensation now. It's almost like you are, like you feel yourself like rocking a little bit, which is weird because no one else in the boat is sort of experiencing rocking, but you realize you're getting like sense bleed, that you're getting that close to Mort. You're only on the river a few hours when something large looms up out of the mist ahead of you. It is a massive barge. And when I say barge, we shouldn't hear trash barge or cargo barge, but instead we should think pleasure barge.
So cruise ship,
Yes, this is
but an aircraft carrier cruise ship.
a wide, relatively like flat ship with beautiful lanterns hanging all along its edges, casting strange lights along. It looks like there is a almost like a little flotilla of like smaller ships and dinghies and things kind of being pulled along in its wake. For a moment, there is the impression of what are they? Of scavengers flitting along in the shadow of a shark. And you see the palace ship of Lord Lambton rise up out of the mist ahead of you. What do you all do?
I make sure that I'm still in human form.
You are indeed. The human form, a young man approximately the same age as Auric is, at least sort of mentally and emotionally. And sort of that bright blonde hair matching the gold streaks that run through Auric's scales. What's everyone else doing?
I mean, Lexi's just kind of like, I mean, granted, Lexi has definitely seen some things in her life and knows of the excess wealth that runs in certain circles, and she's never quite seen a pleasure barge, but she's seen its human equivalent.
I think maybe that sort of moment of insight hits in two phases. At first, it's this overwhelming glamour, literally the glamour of it.
Mm-hmm.
It radiates sort of majesty and splendor and wondrousness. It is the essence of the charm and illusion of the Fae. The multicolored mist that rises up off the water, it's almost like the barge is dragging a curtain of the mist behind it. And it sort of augments and winds in and around it, creating this beautiful illusion. And that's when it cuts through. Just like if someone was watching, they would see a spark of amber white fire in Lexi's eye as a little bit of that illusion, that charm, hits hero light and is blunted. And that's when that thought can trail through your head of, it's impressive, but there are definitely commonalities with some of the excesses you've seen, both in Queensboro and around the world. What is Cyrus doing?
I think Cyrus is probably doing his best to just like scan the boat for entrances, exits, bars. He's doing a full on breaking in inventory.
How are we going to infiltrate this building?
Yeah. What happens if we need to leave in a hurry?
Yeah.
So, one thing you notice very quickly is that the barge itself it's not very structural, in the sense that like it's not like a complex building or something. It is almost more of just a large floating flat surface, above which there are sails, but there's also like almost a tent-like canopy above, and you see figures sort of moving in and around, unusual fey creatures you've never seen before. Lights sort of bob and dance. You all start to be able to hear music. This is really almost like just like a large outdoor throne room, where folks are in revelry and sort of. It's not the hard partying that's going to bring the night to an end quickly. It's the sort of soft entertainment that can last and last and last, of people sort of watching idly from chairs with meals and servants. And our map is not perfect, but I'm going to at least get you on it, so that you can get a feel for what's going on. Now we'll remove the extra auric that I was using to test the lighting. So you all should be able to see a boat on the river.
Indeed.
Haven't quite gotten there yet.
So you all are sort of back behind this a ways. And Cyrus, you can feel it. Mort is on that boat. You're close enough now that you can feel sort of like, almost like at the waterline is where you feel his presence. So what do you all want? Actually, I'll put this in character. Lady Marta, associates. That is Lord Lambton's palace ship. Orders?
Oh, remind me, were we intending to sneak on, or were we going to try and speak with Lambton?
I don't remember.
Been a couple weeks. I mean, we did basically imply, if not outright say to Stultus that, oh yeah, we want to go talk to Lambton.
Yeah, it feels like if they expected us earlier,
Yeah.
than we might be expected. And
Could get on without any problems.
Right.
Getting off might be a different story.
Well, worst case scenario, I can always burn it.
I thought the DM said the river was too far to swim across.
We are constrained by the limits of our map making.
Details.
I'm more making fun of Joe's desire to have
My
us
pyromania.
yeah, Joe's desire to have us all swimming in the river, trying to make it to shore.
This is true. You would potentially have difficulties.
See,
Only potentially.
I know things.
what's the nautical equivalent of keep the meter running?
Yeah.
We have to feed the meter.
Might need to.
The captain is perfectly willing to sort of give it some space and let you all sort of do your thing.
But he'll stay like in the area,
Yeah.
right? Like this was a there and back deal.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Then I suppose if we're planning on not being subtle, we should try and find a ladder of some kind.
How does one get on one of these barges? Like Lexi doesn't know these things.
The captain says, I have, if you all are expected guests, and you want to make your presence known, you should be able to hail one of the smaller ships to retrieve you and bring you on board.
Logic.
It's amazing what happens when you use it. So I suppose in some ways this is kind of Marta's domain. You know, she's the one that
Yeah.
hired the boat. Come on, Marta, get us on the ship.
How does one hail?
Marta is just like shrugs and is like, "Hey, over here!" And it is borderline a sound attack. Like you see part of the water like ripple in front of her, and there are some there's one goblin towards the front of the boat who was like doing something and like desperately grabs onto part of the rigging and like is pulled sideways. There are people at the edges standing on some of like the little dinghies and stuff who just get like bowled over. And a silver dragonborn like pokes their head up over the back and is like, may we help you? And she says, yeah, we're expected.
That works.
Very well. And a small, not quite a rowboat. It's a little bit broader than that. I'd say it's approximately got the dimensions of like a van, basically, pulls up and is able to bring you all on board.
Pokey 2.0.
Pokey 2.0.
Uh-huh.
So, let me, course of all the nights.
Wait, where'd I go? Teleported.
Okay, I've got all them on the map layer, I guess. Oh boy, there we go. So you see Silver Dragonborn sort of... You all kind of know well enough now. Even though some of them are like wearing like armor and things, a lot of them are like glorified servants. There do seem to be a few like legitimate guards intermingled. And sitting on a it is both more tasteful and ostentatious at the same time than you would imagine. There is a beautiful throne. And it's not like raised really high. It's sort of sitting at a normal chair height. And it's almost like it's made out of some kind of like marble or like some kind of delicately worked stone, but it has strands of these pulsing colors running through it, and sort of splayed up behind it is like a fanning peacock's feathers framing this throne, and seated at it is the figure that Auric you recognize as Lord Lambton. Sitting here, he looks like an elven aristocrat. Sort of long hair pulled back. The beautiful strains of sort of blue and green and purple are running through it. Very sort of slender features, almost to the point of looking maybe a little off. It's like right on that line between like where a feature falls into too much. Beautiful, sort of well-cut robes with all of these colors. The mist is almost sort of swirling out from beneath the robe and beneath the throne. He's sort of sitting back with sort of one foot up over his other knee. You recognize Argent, or no, that's not Argent. It's another silver dragonborn who almost looks like he came out of like the same mold as Argent. This is one of the real guards here on the ship. So you all are sort of brought on board up near the front. There is a large grate that has been partially covered, occupying a large section of the flooring in front of you. And Lambton looks up and says, he sort of halts the music, halts sort of the festivities. There's maybe a few dozen people on this ship. Ah, well, our a most beloved and esteemed guest has finally made an appearance. The prodigal dragonborn returns home. And he looks at the dragonborn next to him and says, "That's the right phrase, right? Yes, yes. Auric, welcome. You must be Miss Farino, Mr. Dunhallow, Miss Blackthorn, and of course the Lady Marta." And he gives sort of like a borderline disrespectful bow.
Mocking.
Everybody give me an intelligence check.
Woo!
Or brain go burr.
This isn't the character with a -1, but I still rolled a 3.
Oof.
Or his brain go
19.
burr.
21.
All
Once
right.
they remembered which button to press.
Yeah, Auric, you feel like you're going to throw up.
Oric's a little too distracted to be intelligent right now.
What do you mean?
I'll even say this. There is almost the periphery of like an anxiety attack. You feel Lambton's authority sort of asserting itself in this space. And it is pushing right into that territory of like gonna pass out, gonna throw up. Cyrus and Lexi, what you notice is that he called all of you by your names.
Yeah.
It didn't quite have the ring of speaking a true name, but certainly it is disrespectful. And also, he definitely is aware of who all of you are.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Steve.
Oh, of course. Stultus let me know you were doing whatever this is. Stultus beat your your deception check by 1, and just sat on it the whole time.
Figures.
Well, it took you far longer to make an appearance than I would have expected, but we are so glad to welcome you home. I understand that you have met some of the changed ones.
Yes.
That is, of course, the talk of the territory. The wonderful charity that we've been able to provide for our neighbors.
Certainly charitable. Yes.
I just think of the lives that these children and humans will be able to live, and we know that we have done something good.
And what do you get out of it?
Well, of course, as a man of station and authority, it is my responsibility to use these gifts that I have been given, as is due my position, to better the lives of my subjects and my neighbors.
Of course.
Oryx
Yeah, but-
starts to have a coughing fit. Bullshit.
You'll have to forgive me, sir. I don't know a whole lot about fairy, but how did you come about the ability to do this?
Pause real quick. Auric, charisma saving throw.
Fair. Okay, 13.
Huge
You-
+7. You got lucky there.
Or did I?
Or did you? I don't know.
You managed to like get that out, but it like hurts in your chest. Like almost like you've swallowed a lot of air or something, and there's a pressure, and it gets worse when you do that.
The fake coughing fit turns into a real coughing fit.
Yeah. And even to the point where like it goes on for just a second more than feels normal, and your throat starts to rasp a little.
Did he curse you so you can't speak ill of him? Lexi doesn't really say this out loud. This is more her.
I'll say, and if you all are interested, give me insight or perception checks.
$16.
Same.
So, both of you kind of notice this. You don't exactly put together what this is. But I'll say with this, you can actually feel this pressure that Lambton is exuding. And it doesn't hit you all the same, but you're
Right.
aware of it. And I think in this moment you realize that it's hitting Auric harder than the rest of you. And sorry, Lexi, what was your question?
Um, well, since Lambton had kind of gone on explaining about, you know, he had talked about the powers that he had been granted as a man of his station. And so at least I think that's how he worded it. But basically, my counterpoint was to ask him, yeah, kind of play it off as a not unintelligent, but human lacking the knowledge of how things work in fairy. Of could you explain how that works to me?
He just jumps right at it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course, Miss Farino. The bestowal of Fey blessings is an ancient practice. It dates back thousands and thousands of years. Certain powerful Fey figures, like myself, bestow gifts on others. Things that improve their lives, that enrich their existence. It is the grandest version of the petty services of a kobold might offer to a cobbler, or some. Are there still cobblers? I'm not.
I do know what a cobbler is, don't worry.
Okay.
It's a pie, right?
Heard stories about cobblers from childhood. I get it.
I worry that some of our vernacular here might be a bit dated compared to your lovely Queen City.
Understandable. That's what happens when two places are separated with no interactions for centuries or more.
Of course, and what a shame that has been. We've heard tale of. Well, I have to say, we're all quite impressed with what you all have made of yourselves in the interlude. But all of the illnesses and trials and difficulties that we could have offered a helping hand as a neighbor to see you through. But such is the distant mists of the past, and here we are in the present.
Indeed.
What's Cyrus doing? Looking
Cyrus is
all
sitting there fuming.
contemplative.
I think Cyrus is not exactly sure how he would put it, but some sort of like in all your would like kind of referencing what they saw at Oryx Town, that like for all your help of considering us neighbors, it seems as though your subjects are not doing as well given the bestowal of your gifts.
Oh, I'm given to understand there are minor flickers in the magical weave of fairy, but only momentary. It's unfortunate that such an incident occurred. And he looks over at one of the servants and says, "Get one of our ritualists to schedule an examination of the hatchery in Trefdraig. I fear that there's something wrong with the alignment there." Some of these enchantments are quite old, and after they've been in use for so long, they're prone to picking up clutter and small imperfections that can cause difficulties. It's unfortunate that amplified the very, very minor draw of power from my territory.
That's one way of putting it.
Sure. Yeah, sure. As my friends would say, you have to clean up the tubes. Sure.
He laughs, but doesn't seem to understand the reference.
Yeah, Cyrus is not inclined to help at all with it either.
Well, I'm.
In this new spirit of neighborliness, can we expect some sort of formal petition to the Queen City for such benevolence to continue?
I have been making such petitions. This has been the work of years. The the deputy ambassador is, of course, a wonderful individual, very astute, even though she is quite young by our standards. And of course, there is well, we won't speak of that, but and of course, I would never speak ill of my own queen or the queen of summer, but this is what we have been asking for. They want to lock the world in amber. They don't want the sort of mutual benefit and sharing that could be offered between our two realms. They would rather have this tightly controlled trickle of a gate tightly under their thumb, even at the cost of clear and present harm that we could prevent.
Don't know, guys. It makes a good point.
Well, what's the cost of the cure?
Yeah.
I think Oric probably mutters that under his breath because he's still kind of overwhelmed by the power of Lambton.
Hmm.
You get the impression that at least some of these things seem to be true. And of course, Cyrus, you still feel Mort somewhere ahead of you and below.
Yeah.
Can we take a tour?
Party tour?
It's an idea.
He gestures around, and you all have been sort of fixated on him, but there's not really a whole lot around. You see, well, not in the sense of like things that are apparently concealed or structures of some kind. There are just lots of small low tables. There's like pillows and blankets thrown along the floor. There's all kinds of strange fae just sort of lounging, and a lot of them are kind of watching this exchange, but some of them are just very calmly like eating and drinking, inhaling strange smokes out of censers. There are beautiful like flashes of light that people are sort of entranced by. Moats and sort of small servant fae kind of flit in and out, while larger silver dragonborn servants come and sort of clear things away and are sort of bringing people things. Oh, well, there's not much to see beyond this, of course. And there's a touch of false humility there, of like, oh, it's only this. And then, of course, there's some servants areas below, a kitchen, a pantry. That's where they keep the food, right? Yes. And of course, there is that thing that we are holding down there, but I wouldn't expose you all to such a creature.
Ooh, I like behind the scenes. I like creatures.
If you step forward, you can perhaps catch a glimpse of it through that grating below your feet.
Did you capture it?
Yeah, well, not me personally. I was asked to contain this thing.
Why? What'd it do?
Have you not? And he turns over to the dragonborn next to him and says, raise the wards. And you can see there's some of the magical protections here sort of like hum a little more noticeably than they were. And he says, has no one... I know it has been centuries, but do they not still speak of the Tuatha in the Queen City?
I mean, it's kind of like a rumor, like, but it's like the boogeyman. Don't let the Tuatha get you. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know.
These are no illusions, no creatures of rumor. These are creatures of the blackest, blood-soaked nightmares. Creatures of haunting and death and war. That thing down there has slain more fairy and of the human realm than any creature I have ever encountered. Even your esteemed father, Lady Marta.
Was he like in a war or something?
Wait, was that he's killed more than Lady Marta's father has, or he's killed Lady Marta's father?
I won't say that the latter hasn't happened. I will say that his implication is that whatever is down there has a higher kill count than the slumbering catastrophe.
Okay.
If you'll excuse me, Miss Farino, wars are fought between sentient creatures of conscience and I suppose the closest word is souls.
That's debatable sometimes.
It is a disagreeable act, but it is sometimes the natural conclusion of disagreement between thinking beings. What is down there is a monster.
It doesn't think?
It is a creature that kills. And it grows stronger in killing, so it can kill again.
If it's that tough, how do you keep it?
Everybody give me an Arcana check.
Ah, damn. It was on the 20 for a long time and then just went 2. Not that Lexi would be expected to have good Arcana.
Sometimes the dice are just like, this is the character you picked.
This is the character you picked. It's just how it's gonna be. You see that B on the dice, and you're like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Wah, wah. Auric, again, you're going to throw up.
Poor Oric.
Cyrus, you put it together. This is the heart of Lambton's territory. Not just the center of a territory is as much about metaphor and atmosphere and we might say vibe as it is about a physical location. This is the lord of the river of mists and illusion, wrapped in mist atop his river, seated on his throne in his palace, which floats along the river's waters. This is layers of symbolism and significance that make Lambton's power and will more significant here than anywhere else. Something about this is almost like it's almost like an arcane cage built out of poetry and fairy magic. Something like this, while it's not maybe the absolute best way to ensnare someone like Mort, it is certainly a very, very good way to ensnare someone like Mort.
So we can see him down there?
Do you want to go take a look?
Yeah.
You can see that parts of this have been covered, but there's almost like strategically placed holes. The pop culture parallel, it's the Rancor's den. And Lambton is Java. There are strangely conflicting images when you look down there. You can see that the mist, the multicolored mist, is sort of seeping down into that space. It almost falls like a liquid and sort of pools down there, making the whole space sort of foggy and surreal. And almost like it's projected into this fog, you catch glimpses. You see this figure that you think maybe you've seen in a dream or a vision. This tall sort of muscular warrior, dressed all in black with a cloak of black feathers, long black hair running down. But he is sort of hunched and emaciated. The sort of clothing and armor just sort of hangs over his frame. You catch flashes of the Great Raven. This what seems to be the same creature that you saw beneath the Raven Palace. The same creature whose presence draws near the more that you handle the artifacts that Mort seem to have left there. You also catch glimpses of Mort, the person that you've always known as Mort, dressed in sort of nondescript modern clothing. One thing you do notice is that Mort looks scarred. And some of them look very, very old. Scars that you've never seen before. And there's a lot of them. But there also seem to be sort of fresh wounds. Not huge ones, just little ones. But you can kind of catch it in places where maybe there is sort of a deeper color staining some of the clothing from underneath.
Cyrus will turn back to Lambton and just kind of shrug and be like, "Doesn't look like much.
Well,
I've taken down harder looking street raff."
well, I must say this this creature is not in its best state. It, of course, a large part of that is my will, my domain, pressing against it. But one of my experts say that it has been seemingly wounding itself. I was there. I was there thousands of years ago and stood across battle lines with this creature and the creatures like it, and I can assure you that they are not to be trusted or underestimated.
It's true of a lot of things.
Cyrus, when he says that, there is a momentary flicker, and you remember it's a disjointed perspective. It's not a singular set of eyes. It's dozens, maybe 50 or 60 pairs of eyes, and cawing and screeching, and you feel your talons, all over 100 of them, raking and tearing. Your beaks are wet with this opalescent blood, as a figure who looks very much like the man seated on that throne is being shredded by about 60 ravens, and you see through all of their eyes. He desperately tries to pull some kind of beautiful gleaming saber, and another set of sense information intrudes as you feel your boot lash out and kick the sword out of his hand, as the ravens are allowed to continue tearing and clawing and ripping away pieces of this man. And Lambton's eyes narrow, and he says, "What was that?"
What was what?
You feel pressure. A fragment of Lambton's interest and will is pushing against you. Give me a charisma saving throw.
"12."
The mist sort of gathers more closely around you for a moment, and Lambton eyes you suspiciously. He's sort of like leaning forward in his throne now.
Man, way to harsh the mellow.
Didn't mean to suggest it wasn't hard work capturing him. My bad.
Lambton's brow is still sort of furrowed as he looks out at you all. And he says, well, you are here. There is food, there is drink. Please avail yourselves of some of the finest that Fairy has to offer.
Lexi, meanwhile, has been getting kind of curious, and she's kind of playing dumb as best she can.
Hasn't she rolled a sequential 2 and a 3?
Yeah, well, she's hung out with her people, so she knows that there's something else going on, and maybe she can't really see what's in the grate, but also she doesn't know what's in the grate. So Lexi's gonna do something she used to do a long time ago. She's gonna pull out her little hero light shard and poke at the grate with it, because why not?
Hmm.
I mean, I could be setting the whole thing on fire. I don't know, but
I know, I really got to think about this for a second. This is a whole new set of factors at play.
it's like, what would happen if I did that?
What is your intent when you poke at it? What does Lexi want to happen?
I mean, since obviously we've been kind of talking as a group beforehand, Lexi, may not totally know what's down there, but she's kind of able to deduce that Mort's probably down there if Mort is in fact on this boat. And so she kind of wants to figure out how to get to where Mort is, because they're on a rescue mission.
All right. You're going to roll a very important Arcana check.
I'm probably going to fail.
I don't know that you want to succeed.
Maybe I don't. I don't know. Let's see. I went to the corner. 9.
Oh, I kind of wish it had gone more solidly one way or the other. 9. What happens on a 9? Gosh.
Sparks.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a flicker as you bring this out, and you see fully for a moment as this shard. I assume you brought out the original one, not the newer one, right?
Yes, the
one
original.
that turns into the bloody eye.
Yeah.
The feather. You sort of delicately press this shard, just sort of like, I'll tell you what, give me a sleight of hand check to go with this. Let's see how subtle Lexi is with this.
13.
There's a lot going on. That's not too bad.
Yeah. I mean, I literally picture Lexi just getting on her hands and knees going ding, ding, ding. So, which would be like a nat 1. So.
So many creatures would be so horrified to know that you're using a fragment of hero light like this for all sorts of reasons. So this shard that simultaneously feels like a hard, mostly cool crystal, but also simultaneously a warm, sort of soft feather. You press it just sort of gently against the edges of this grate, and you definitely see that there are flickers of white fire that sort of, it's almost like you're pouring visible something over an invisible lattice work.
Okay.
And it reveals sort of layers of interlocking, wisping magic in the air. It only makes it visible for a second. You do notice that it sort of like eats just a little bit into like the top layer. Not enough to like do any real harm, but you definitely notice that it like scars this pattern a little.
I immediately pretend that I'm tying my shoes.
All right, so what are folks doing?
Standing in a corner, clutching my head.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I guess I'm also gonna take a look down the grate. especially since Lambton invited us to.
Ooh. Give me
Uh-oh.
a charisma save, but not. I'll tell you, it's not the same one you've been making so far. I'll tell you, this feels very similar. Uh-oh. Before I look at the result, I'm going to tell you what this feels like. This feels like that moment in the hag's hut where something tried to make itself seen.
Okay, then I think things are about to go down because I rolled a nat 1.
Oh, womp womp. Um,
Uh-oh.
Auric, the feeling of pressure starts to teeter and careen over the edge, and it starts to feel like a full-blown panic attack. You are not in a position to notice this, but people around you might notice that your hair is going gray and quickly.
Going gray and what?
Quickly.
Quickly. Okay.
And I think so. Lexi, you're around the edge of this. Auric, you're at the edge of this. And Cyrus, for reasons that are obvious, down in the pit, Mort looks up and sees something and whispers a name. And it's almost unintelligible, but you know that a name has been spoken. And Lambton says, Auric, come over here. Don't act like a stranger.
I remain curled up in the fetal position.
You almost feel some of the pressure like relieved for just a second. Do you want to go over to him?
I mean, not particularly.
But you feel some pressure relief for a second.
Lambton repeats it. Auric, come here. Don't act like a stranger.
Have I noticed the gray,
Give me a perception check.
or did I notice? Did I hear Mort react?
You heard him say something, but
Okay.
there is like a strange wispiness to it. You definitely see that something is happening to Auric.
Okay.
You see his hair is just barely like gold at the tips, and is losing its color.
Okay. So I think Cyrus will walk over to Auric and like help him up, and is going to telepathic tell him that some gray is showing.
I don't know what that means.
And
Everyone, give me a dexterity saving throw.
A dex save.
Yep.
All right.
God damn it, I rolled a 4.
Perfect.
I mean, I am on the ground tying my shoes.
Yeah. So all of you feel it as suddenly, and Cyrus, you feel it first. You're already like repositioning yourself without even knowing
27,
why.
yeah.
yeah.
The 27, yeah, you better damn well.
The fractured impression of Mort is sort of like coming back into focus. And it's still flickering, but there is more clarity. The mist is clearing. The Mort that you know was the impression that whispered that name. And then you see this emaciated warrior like pressing himself up from the ground, and he pulls back this arm, and it would almost be comical how like frail and scarred he looks with this sort of big wind up. But as he sort of swings towards the edge of this space, he like explodes outward for a second and becomes the great raven, like wing checking the interior of this cage with as much force as he can muster, and the whole barge, this massive thing, goes. Everyone is tilted. Lexi, you're surreptitiously poking at it, and suddenly you just like fall over. The hero light shard, I think, lands still sort of on top of this this pattern of imprisoning magic and sizzles there. And Lambton doesn't lose his feet, but he looks startled. And he stands up and he says, "Move away from there."
I grab the shard and scurry back.
I'm gonna ping Auric again, and I'm gonna say, Mort senses the lady. Stay or go?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
In the moment where you all are sort of hesitating on what to do, Lambton's will coalesces like a hammer. He looks at each of you all. And he speaks. Oh, what would her middle name be? Hold on. I want to get this right real quick. Here we go. And he speaks in this voice that you can tell the difference. Earlier, when he said parts of your names, there was a touch of this. You feel this now. And he says, "Vela, Argia, Blackthorn, move." And Vela is like wrenched away from you, Auric. Lexi, what's your middle name?
Don't you wish you knew? Louisa.
Lexi, Luisa Farino, move. And you are pressed back.
Lexi? No.
Alexis.
No, he said Lexi. He said Lexi. That's not my name.
He would know. And he repeats, and each of you feels this, and even Marta. And he says, Lady Marta Taurus, Princess of Catastrophe, move. And each of you is sort of pressed in this moment. Auric, did you ever decide what Auric's true name is?
I don't think I did.
So the rest of you, Lambton says a name in Draconic that you all don't recognize, and then he says, "Move." Auric doesn't move. you feel that pressure. You feel that weight that has been crushing down on you since you stepped onto this barge. And it solidifies, and then I think at about the same moment that the tips of your hair fully goes gray and all the blonde is gone, it's like the pressure suddenly like slides off at an angle. And Lambton looks confused. And he says it again. Move. And now, all the pressure is gone. You don't feel sick. You don't feel hurt. You don't feel pressed or crushed. What you do feel is something burning, trying to break free.
I stand tall and I let it.
I want to break free.
A lot of like the servants and the other guests here have rapidly piled off the edge because Lambton is throwing true names, and this is bad. And they know there is something under this ship. They are fleeing to the edges. They are grabbing boats and leaving. And as all of these lesser fae stream around you all, as each of you feels this pressure, as something in your essence is being pushed, and it's not as powerful to Lexi and to Cyrus and to Vela, but just for a moment, it's enough. And Auric, something clicks into place. There is a gray fire that starts to gently push outward from Auric. And all the mist, the multicolored lights in the mist, start to sizzle and press back. And once it's cleared a space of like 5 or 10 feet, this gray fire snaps back together, and there is a roiling mass of gray fire above Auric's head. And it starts to resolve itself into a shape that I have a picture for.
You've been waiting for this, haven't you?
I have. When you see it, you will know why.
Okay.
A crown of angular, worked black iron with very slight raven and feather motifs coalesces out of this flame over Auric's head. And this time, when he says the name, when Mort whispers something from down below, the great raven has quit thrashing. The music has stopped. All the sound has dropped away. And you hear Mort whisper, Bran. And Auric, what do you do?
Lambton, I think it's time to release your prisoner.
Lambton is confused and disoriented And the pressure of this fire, you feel it sort of wash out from you somewhat. And Cyrus, you feel Mort. Something clicks. Something happens in Mort, and you feel it resonate, and you feel it in you too. The pressure that was bearing down on you is gone. Lexi, you even feel it in the hero light. Something clicks, and there's and a thin coating of gold white fire pushes this back. Vela is whispering some incantation and manages to break through, and Marta just lets out a scream and presses out. Lambton is horrified and profoundly confused. He is saying the name over and over and over, and each time, Auric, you feel it like whoosh past you, and nothing. It catches nothing. It finds nothing.
Do it. Bullet time.
Yes. He might as well just be firing like clouds at you. The lantern in front of you goes, no, 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 no. And
No.
the lantern who is on the ship dissolves down into the mist. And you realize you're hearing, for a second you heard an echo of no from two places. And you realize there is something massive in the water. The water bucks and ripples, and you see all of the mist start to draw towards one place. And spines start to come up through the river like the fin of a shark. And then there's a flap and massive diaphanous wings, like the wings of a large, impossibly large insect-like creature with the sort of fragile beauty of like a butterfly wing. And it flaps up from the water, and you see a long sort of serpentine neck rise up, and you see the true form of Lord Lambton, the river worm, the lord of mists and water and phantasms and illusion, crest up out of his river, looming over you. What are you all going to do?
I would suggest anyone who wishes to survive get off the boat now.
The one guard who was sitting next to him, or standing next to him, clearly didn't realize that, like, Lambton had bailed on him, and just, like, full about face and just running jumps off of the back. And, like, you know, you after a second, you see, like, a little silver, like, fin pressing through the water. All of the other boats are rapidly disappearing in different directions. You can feel the mist sort of pressing in around the edges. Mort is... Cyrus, you can feel Mort's complex knot of emotions. Like, you can't unpack one feeling out of this. But you do recognize Lambton's attention has shifted. Whatever this is that has been holding Mort here has weakened. You can feel more of his power pressing through.
Can I take a closer look at the grate?
Give me an Arcana check. Looking at the grate, you can see that it has been marked in like Sylvan runic script that aligns it to the pressure that Lambton brings to bear on it. The grate itself is not that powerful apart from the presence that Lambton was pressing down on it. It's still sturdy, but you get the impression that this might be breakable.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just want to try it. Cyrus
Lexi wants to get her hero light out.
Cyrus just wants to go. Just what weapon is it? Hang on. I've forgotten if is whatever I've got that's cold. I forgot if it's a cold iron dagger.
I have a cold iron maul.
Yeah, you definitely have a cold iron weapon for sure.
Okay. Maybe it's just do I just have a bow? I thought I had a. I thought I took a dagger too, but I'm just seeing the bow in my inventory. I was gonna try to like.
So Cyrus is able to sort of cobble together some of the cold iron items, and it's going to take you a minute, but you see how you can maybe unravel this.
Okay.
Lady Marta has, Lambton is roaring. Auric, what have you done?
Auric's like, I don't know.
That's not my name.
And there's this trumpeting roar from this massive figure, and you recognize it as some kind of almost like if a fairy dragon was the size of a great worm, as Lambton sort of pokes up out of the water and shrieks and roars. In the middle of yelling, one of the like tables off the deck hits him in the side of the jaw as Lady Marta throws it at him. But you also notice this doesn't shift him very much. This pressure is still coming down on you all, and the mist and lights are intensifying around the edges. And you can actually see Lambton is seething, and literally, like, opalescent mist is rolling out, dribbling from the corners of his mouth and getting thicker and thicker around you. Auric, the interior of your headspace has just become a little strange.
That's one way to put it.
A door has opened. We've used this image before. This door, which had been closed, has now swung fully open, and it's almost like the lights have come on, but in a way that is disorienting. You know that this name that Lambton spoke, you could feel it not connecting. But you also know that maybe it's not quite as simple as not being Auric anymore. There's a lot of stuff to sift through there. You're suddenly accessing all of these things that you had felt in flashes and moments and glimmers, but all at once. It's like someone has turned on a water hose. Or maybe it might be better to say that someone has thrown a box of printed pictures at you. There is a flurry of images and half recollections. But most of all, you can feel the heaviness of this gray, pulsing fire in the form of a cold iron crown floating above your head. And this is where we're going to come back next week. Lots of stuff to unpack.
Yep.
Yup.
I will plug real quick. I showed it briefly, but that beautiful crown of cold iron is from at Fabled Brush, who did a very beautiful job.
Absolutely.
And
Oh, this
with
sucks.
that, we will come back to this next week. Gonna cut off our recording. Bye, internet.
Bye.
Bye.
Recording stopped.